very good afternoon to you. I am Professor Anuradha Jain, Professor of Economics at Vivekananda Institute of Professional Studies. Today I will be discussing about what economics is all about. So it's a very important concept which we should understand before starting with the other advanced topics in economics. So knowledge has many branches and economics is an important and useful branch of knowledge. In recent years, the science of economics has assumed greater significance in view of the fact that knowledge of economics is being used for initiating and accelerating growth in the economics of the world and thus for eradicating want, poverty and unemployment from the human race. And economics is a very important concept for everybody in this world, and that is the reason that even in the new education system, this subject has been introduced since the school education. And understanding of economics becomes very important in day-to-day life decision also. So besides the nature, so many other problems such as inflation, food, stagnation and recession, population explosion, adverse balance of payments and so on that confront the economies of today cannot be understood and solution for them cannot be provided without understanding the concept of economics or without the adequate knowledge of the science of economics. Now, originally, if you see, what is economics? What was the term economics meant in the earlier time? So, it is originated from a Greek word oikonomikos. Oikonomikos, it has two parts. First is oikos, matlab home. Oikos means home. Nomos means management. So, in short, it was considered as the home management system. But later on, the scientific term of economics was developed and it was declared as a special branch. And Adam Smith is known as the father of this modern economics. Now, how Adam Smith defined economics? According to him, economics is a science which inquires into the nature and causes of wealth of nation. Now, how do we define wealth and what wealth was according to Adam Smith? It was material goods produced annually in the economy. There were different aspects of wealth like production of wealth, productivity of labor dependent upon the market size of the economy, distribution of wealth, and consumption was considered as the end purpose, that is the ultimate objective of an economic activity. But this definition of economics, was criticized on various grounds as it exaggerated emphasis on wealth, first of all. Secondly, it defined wealth in a very narrow and restricted sense, considered only material goods here, and primarily emphasized only on wealth and reduced man to a secondary place. So, therefore, no place to the humankind or man, and only emphasis was on the wealth. So, based on this criticism, further development took place in the field of economics, and then Alfred Marshall defined it in a different way. According to Alfred Marshall, is a study of mankind in the ordinary business of life. So, it examines that part of individual and social action which is most closely connected with the attainment and with the use of the material requisites of well-being. So, it is on one side a study of wealth and on the other hand, which is very important side, a part of the study of the mankind. But again, this definition was also criticized, and it was criticized that more emphasis is on the material welfare. So, not the other welfare part was considered, and only the materialistic world we are considering here. And welfare has a wider meaning in contrast to this definition. And then came, L. Robbins, who defined economics in a very practical way. And according to him, economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ants and scarce means which have alternative uses. And you know that there are limited resource, wants are unlimited, and these resources also have alternative uses, and that is the reason that the scarcity arises of this product. And economics is all about taking decision in this scarcity. So that means it's a science of choice. So in other words, you can say that Robbins emphasized on choice in the scarcity, how you make choice when resources are scarce. Okay, so that was the definition of Robbins. But here also he ignored the possibility of increase in resources over time. And also Robbins did not include important economic issues like unemployment, business cycle, economic growth, and therefore this definition was also considered to be incomplete definition. And then the new version of economics, or the new definition, was given by Paul Samuelson. How Paul Samuelson defined economics? He says that economics is the study of how man and society choose, with or without the use of money, to employ the scarce productive resources which have alternative uses, or to produce various commodities over time, and how distribute them for consumption now and in future among various people and group of the society. So that was the definition given by Paul Samuelson, and through his definition he introduced growth dimension under this scarcity situation. But again, other economists also found some criticism or something which was lacking in the definition, and they said it assumed that economics is relevant for scarcity scenario, and he ignored the scenario of surplus of resources, because there are various resources which are surplus, so not every resource is scarce in nature. So therefore, again, some improvement took place, some changes took place, and then the new definition was given by Professor A.C. Das. According to him, economics is the study of choice making by individuals, institutions, societies, nation, and globe under condition of scarcity and surplus towards maximizing benefits and satisfying their unlimited needs at present and future. So therefore, this definition took into account time dimension, growth aspect. It is also relevant in globalization and sustainable development aspect. It includes everything, like how decision to be taken at the time of scarcity, at the time of when goods are surplus. It also talked about the welfare. So therefore, this is the definition which includes everything, all aspects of economics. So just to recap, if we just see that Adam Smith stressed on wealth, Marshall emphasized on production and consumption activity, Robbins focused on scarcity problem, that means choice under the scarcity situation, Paul Samuelson focused on production and consumption activities and achieving growth under scarcity, and then finally A.C. Das emphasized on choice making under scarcity and surplus growth. Now, after knowing this definition of economics, we should know that economics broadly has two branches. One is the microeconomics and the other is the macroeconomics. So, we will see now what is micro, what is macro, and how do we distinguish between the two. So, the prefix micro is derived from the Greek word micros, which means small. So, microeconomics studies the economic behavior of individual economic units and individual economic variables. So, that means it is studying at the individual level. So, therefore, at this smaller level, and this study economic behavior of household, firm, industries from the various subject matter of microeconomics. Okay, so what are the subject matter of microeconomics? What do we study under microeconomics when we talk about individual? So it can be individual consumer, it can be individual producer, or it can be individual firm in the economy. So when we talk about consumers, we talk about demand, we talk about supply, how prices are determined with the help of demand and supply, how consumers get equilibrium, how do they maximize their satisfaction. Okay, so that was all about consumers that we study under microeconomics. We also study about theory of production. That means how producers are at equilibrium, how producers take decision, how they maximizes their profit in different market situations, whether there is perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly market. So all individual decisions related to production also is the subject matter of microeconomics. Then related to this is the theory of cost that we study under microeconomics. Okay, so how cost is determined and how to minimize the cost, what is the graph shape of the total cost curve, average cost curve, marginal cost curve, and how producers try to minimize the cost to maximize the profit. So that also comes under microeconomics. Then theory of product pricing, like how prices are determined in different situation, in different market conditions. Then we also study under microeconomics theory of distribution, like a factor market, because as we know that there are 4 factors of production to produce any commodities like land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. So how the price of these factors of production are decided, because we know that land is given rent, entrepreneur get profit, capital get interest, okay, labor get wages. So how these prices are decided, how the wages are decided in the labor market, how rent is decided, how we determine the profit of the entrepreneur. So that is also the part of the subject matter of microeconomics. And we also study welfare economics under microeconomics. Now, if we talk about macroeconomics, so macro is derived from the Greek word macros, which means large. So macroeconomics is a study of the economy as a whole. So when we are studying as a large concept, large means not the firm but the industry, or not the individual but the economy as a whole, then it comes the part of macroeconomics. Now, Professor Balding has defined macroeconomics as, like, macroeconomics deals with not with the individual quantities as such, but with aggregate of these quantities, not with individual income, but with national income, not with individual price, but with general price level, and not with individual output, but with the national output. So that is the macroeconomics. Now, if we see the subject matter of macroeconomics, then in macroeconomics, we study about theory of national income, like how national income is determined or how it is calculated, what are the different ways of calculating national income, like income method, expenditure method, total outlay method, or what are the different concepts which are related to national income. Then we also study about output and employment, theory of employment, okay, under the macroeconomics. We also study about general price level, because product pricing or the commodity pricing or the factor pricing are the part of microeconomics, but when we talk about general price level, then it is the part of the macroeconomics. Then we also talk about the theory of economic growth, theory of international trade, theory of money. Okay, so that is all the part of macroeconomics, because every aspect of the economy is to be considered when we talk about these concepts. So therefore these are the subject matter of macroeconomics. Now, why study macroeconomics separately? Because see, why there are 2 branches of economics, microeconomics and macroeconomics. Why 2 separate branch? Why not everything comes under the same umbrella? Why not aggregate microeconomic variables to arrive at macro? The reason being, even though both are interdependent, but many a times whatever is good for micro may not be good at macro, or whatever is good for individual may not be good for the economy as a whole. Like suppose if we talk about the example of savings. Now savings, that it is good for the individual. And we always say that people should save money. They should not spend everything what they earn. But what if everybody starts saving? Now, if everybody starts saving and all individual just will start, saving money, then what will happen? Is it good for the economy as a whole? No, it is not. Because what will happen, if everybody will start saving, the total consumption will go down, total demand will go down, and if demand goes down, production will go down, and if production goes down, investment will go down, businesses will not be profitable, investments will go down, and if investment goes down, then the level of employment will go down, and employment reduction will lead to decrease in the income of the individuals, and if income goes down, the end result is that from where we will save. Okay, so savings will go down. So you can say that we started with the increase in savings, and the end result is that saving is going down. So that is known as paradox of thrift. So there is a paradox of thrift. It means that savings is good at individual level, at micro level, but if everybody starts saving, if it becomes a macro concept, then it may not be good for the economy as a whole. So therefore, that there is a need to study macroeconomics separately, even though both are interdependent to each other, both are not competent, or they are not competing with each other, but still independent study also becomes very, very important, and therefore these two branches are studied separately, and then they decision of macro depends upon microeconomics, and decision at micro level also depends upon macro level. So therefore understanding of both becomes equally important. Okay, so now we will see like what is the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics, or how do we differentiate between micro and macro. So on the basis of meaning that we have seen, that micro is the branch of economics that studies the individual behavior. So that individual may be the consumer, firm, family, or anybody at micro level. In macro, we study the economy as a whole, the entire system as a whole. Or individual economic variables are dealt under microeconomics. Okay, because we are just studying the individual units, so therefore all variables related to individual are dealt under microeconomics. But when we talk about macroeconomics, then we study the aggregate economic variables. So that means the economy as a whole, as an aggregate level, we study under the macroeconomics. As far as the business application is concerned, microeconomics concept is applied to operational or internal issues. But macroeconomic concepts are applied to environment and external issues, because the entire economy, the economy as a whole is affected, okay, when the business concept of macroeconomics are applied. Under microeconomics, we use the tool of demand and supply, because individual demand, individual supply, and then prices are determined on the basis of demand and supply. All decisions are taken on the basis of individual demand and supply. But under macroeconomics, we cannot consider individual demand, because we are studying the economy as a whole. So therefore the concept is aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So aggregate demand here means the total demand of all the individuals of all the commodities. Okay, and similarly aggregate supply also defined like this. So we know that all the individuals, as like we are all consumers and we consume various type of commodities and number of commodities. So aggregate demand is the total consumption of all the commodities from all the individuals in the economy. Now if we talk about assumptions, now it is assumed that all macroeconomic variables are constant when we are studying about micro. But when we study about macro, then we assume that all microeconomic variables are constant. Because unless we assume this, we cannot reach to the appropriate decision, and it will become very, very difficult to define and to understand the concept of micro and macro. So these assumptions become very important there. Now, microeconomics is concerned with product pricing, theory of factor pricing, theory of economic welfare, that what we have discussed under the pricing or the scope of economics. But as far as macroeconomics is concerned, it studies the theory of national income, aggregate consumption, theory of general price level, economic growth, etc. Importance, if we see, then microeconomics help in determining the prices of the product along with the prices of factors of production like land, labor, capital, entrepreneur, etc. within the economy. But macroeconomics, maintains stability in the general price level and resolve the major problems of the economy like inflation, deflation, reflation, unemployment, poverty, etc. Both these studies, whether it is a microeconomics or macroeconomics, they have certain limitations. Now, microeconomics is based on unrealistic assumption. That is, in microeconomics, it is assumed that there is full employment in the economy, which is not possible at all. Never we have seen this situation where all the resources are fully employed. So, there cannot be full employment. So, therefore, this is the biggest, limitation of microeconomics, that this is based on unrealistic assumption like this. But in macroeconomics, it has been analyzed that fallacy of consumption involves, which sometimes does not prove true because it is possible that what is true for aggregate may not be true for individual or vice versa. So, if we see the key points of micro, so one of the major goal of microeconomics is to analyze the market and determine the prices of goods and services that best allocates limited resource among the different alternative uses. Microeconomics assumes businesses are rational and produce goods that maximize their profit. The science of microeconomics covers a variety of specialized area of study like individual, organization, labor economics, financial economics, public economics, political economy, health economics, urban economics, etc. Now, for most important macroeconomics, the purpose of this discipline is to maximize national income and to provide national economic growth. So, the most common macroeconomic topic of study are like sustainability, full employment, price stability, external balance, balance of payment, productivity, wealth, etc. Macroeconomics hope that their models help address two key areas of research: the cause and consequences of short-run fluctuation in national income, otherwise known as business cycle, and what determines the long-run economic growth. So, that's all in this session. So, we will be discussing more further in this series of microeconomics. So, thank you so much.